what it was prison. Prison was hell. It was a new kind of plantation. I feel like a maroon woman. I feel like an escaped slave because what I saw in the United States in those prisons was slavery. It was black people with chains in cells. It was just poor people, I mean, just stepped on and smashed. I'll never forget what I saw. I'll never forget what I've lived through. I'll never forget what my people have lived through. What is
Oh, good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. I am your host, Stacy Brown.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm Niele Anderson, and welcome and come on in. We have a lot of headlines to get through this morning. We know we missed a couple last week, but we're right on time this morning. And of course, Asada Shakur. Many are calling her beloved mother across the nation. Just quotes and memorials are pouring in about the liberation that she gave Black Americans just by being bold, being courageous, and dying free.
Yeah, and what she said there about prison,
I
and we
can't
know
hear you,
about.
Stacy. I'm sorry.
Okay, but I don't know what's going on. I hope everybody else can hear me, and
I
let's
think we're
get
having a
this
little
thing.
audio trouble, Greer. I can't hear Stacy.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody else can hear me. Let's see. Well, nonetheless, we'll get this fixed for you guys. But what she said about prison and seeing pretty much only black folks in prison, um, we see that with mass incarceration that has been going on ever since she got her freedom in Cuba, and she yeah, she's spot on. She's spot on. Yeah, Nancy Wall. I know you can hear us both, but there's some internal struggles going on here this
I
morning.
hear you now, Stacy.
There we go. But nonetheless, I was speaking of the mass incarceration, and she was spot on. She was 100% spot on.
100%. I mean, there's so many quotes and so much love that has been pouring into her. And I think we're going to have a really good conversation of putting in perspective what her legacy means to this moment in time for Black Americans today in this country with our special guest that we'll get into a little bit later in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, last week, well, Saturday wrapped up, officially wrapped up CBC Week, what we call CBC Week, right? But the formal
Mhm.
title is the Annual Legislative Conference. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation puts on every year. It is the biggest event of the year and full of informative panels. And of course, the Phoenix Awards was the culmination of everything Saturday night. Neil, you seem to have enjoyed yourself last week.
Yeah, talk to a lot of people. I was sharing with a lot of the organizations that usually when I come to CBC, it's all about lawmakers because it is the Congressional Black Caucus. But what I found during the conference this year is that something that I always say on this show that it's the people power that's going to make this happen. I was truly inspired by all of the organizations were there from education to healthcare, to finances and just, Black people thriving and living and trying to, keep their communities safe, keep their communities uplifted and keep their communities thriving. And so even from the mayors that were there, the state legislators that were there, those were the people that I think are really going to turn the tides for this country because of course Congress is still trying to figure it out. But I was really inspired by the organizations that were there. And you brought up the Phoenix Awards. Greer and I were able to attend. We heard from Vice President Kamala Harris. We heard from Wes Moore, who gave us a great charge. And awardees included Angela Rye for her work that she's doing at State of the People and just how she is finding a way to keep people engaged on a grassroots level. And of course, Joteka Edie from Black Women Win, who was at the forefront during Vice President's campaign in supporting and galvanizing organizations like Black Women Lead, the National Council of Negro Women, which these organizations don't need another organization to uplift them, but how they were all able to mobilize and come together. So it was a week full of, you know, just what we needed: a little rest, a little fun, and much activism.
And speaking of and I see totally Randy and Don Lemon got their groove on.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Totally Randy as well as Misha Green, who were making sure that our social was popping, making sure that everybody knew that the Black press was in the house. And shout out to the Washington Informer. They did an amazing job with just, the curation of, because they were, if there was a host for Black press, it would have been the Washington Informer, right?
Mhm.
And they did an amazing job of, keeping us up to date of what was happening in Washington. And of course, Totally Randy, just making sure. I saw she talked to Angela Rye. Of course, she got to Electric Slide with Don Lemon. And she definitely had her boots on the ground.
Yeah, yeah, and Austin was there being the executive that he is.
Oh
But
my
speaking of
gosh, yes, shout out to Austin. He made sure, hosted us well, checked in with us every day at the booth, making sure that we're okay. And so we do have some interviews that we'll be sharing with you. We spoke to Yvonne Willer, who is the president of the Los Angeles Federation, AFL-CIO, one of the largest unions in the country, representing over 800,000 workers. And she talked to us about Prop 50 and how Gavin Newsom is trying to save this redistricting crisis that the Trump-Clan administration is inflicting on us.
Yeah, and speaking of needs,
Oh,
civil
wait,
rights attorney.
most importantly, we have to give a shout out to our partners, Onyx Impact,
Oh, there
who
you
were
go.
there talking about AI and making sure that the partnership between Black Press and Onyx, how we are moving forward with this new technology that we are being forced, whether we like it or not, to participate in.
Yeah, absolutely. Good shout out there. And again, a shout out to civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who pledged $50,000 to the Black press as the Trump attack.
I can't hear. We're having audio issues. I can't hear. I'm going to do this.
I'm sorry, everyone. It's Stacy. Stacy, we could not hear you. I'm talking to you in the chat. It's not you, Niele. We could not hear you.
Okay, but I'm just going to use my computer.
I'm just talking away.
Yeah, you've been talking for a long time. We could not hear you. When you started talking about Trump, and then we lost you.
Run it back.
Boy. Run it back.
About Crump. I'm sorry. Crump's donation.
Yeah. Y'all know, I from minute to minute, I forget everything. It's something that I can only remember if it was said 12 years ago. So, but Attorney Crump did pledge $50,000 in total to the Black press. But the biggest takeaway was his challenge to others to do the same as the Black press heads toward or tries to head toward its historic 200th anniversary, which is just 18 months from now. A year from March would be the 200th anniversary of the Black press. And you think about it, Niele, how many organizations can say that they've been around 200 years? And hopefully we are able to make that milestone. And people like Attorney Crump are trying to help us to do that. And hopefully others will follow his lead.
Yeah, 100%. I think that this is really an opportunity for Black press to have a voice, and for, our Black community to get back into seeking, the stories that are important to our community, because there are a lot of headlines that I see that are coming out that are totally being missed. I watched on television how the tragic, incident that happened in Michigan with the church is all over the news, but yet we didn't see much of the lynching of a Black man in Mississippi. And so it seems now that mainstream media is really pushing Black narrative to the bottom of the list, and our stories and the trauma that white supremacy is inflicting on Black America is beginning to be buried deeper and deeper.
Yeah, and they continue to try and erase our stories, erase Black history. And I think we have a clip there. Well, no, there is the presentation of the $50,000 check. Again, it is a total of $50,000 that he has pledged, Attorney Crump. Again, and he did it out of his love of the Black press, out of his desire to not see history erased as this administration continues to try and do so. He wants to preserve this history, and knowing that the number one teller of that history has always been the Black press. So it is important that folks do follow his lead. Hopefully they will. That's all we can do is hope that they do.
Yeah, and we just have to keep pushing out the narratives and partnering with these content creators. I know Black Press was loving Booker Squared this weekend.
Absolutely.
Black Press showed her a lot of love, and she's helping amplify Black voices. And I think that's what makes this this relationship with Onyx so important, is because they understand the importance of millennials and Gen Zers, and how they move the needle when it comes to that generation. And so, hopefully we'll see, more collaborations with content creators, because at the end of the day, that is an intergenerational commitment, right? Are we going to listen to this clip or no? We're just looking at that's Booker Squared. If anybody doesn't know, she's very popular, very welcomed on Capitol Hill, very welcomed within the Congressional Black Caucus, because she can move the needle.
Oh my God, the censorship! I know y'all worried about Jimmy Kimmel. That white boy gonna be fine. But we got a Black press policy. We need to have good policy that actually uplifts Black Americans. We need to make sure that we are focusing on the most marginalized among us, so that we raise up everybody's quality of life. Progress means that we need to make sure that we are actually moving towards something better, that we're not staying stagnant. The status quo is not good enough. It's not good enough. We have got to make sure that when we are going through this huge shift of this administration, that when it comes time to actually reconstruct what we need, that we do it in a way that is progressive. Yes, Black press matters.
She said to me, she said, "I'm a fan of yours." I said, "What? I'm about to ask you for an autograph. We all fans of yours." Sure. I mean, she has done such an amazing job. And, kudos to her, because she's helping to, like you said, amplify the Black press, amplify Black voices. I know that several of our newspapers, including the Washington Informer, I mean, she lifts them up almost daily.
Right. Yeah, it's her. It's Legally Hyped. It's a few of them that understand their moment, and they understand the importance of the Black press, which is an intergenerational, conversation. And those conversations need to be had, because we need them, but they understand the importance of legacy and history and the contributions of the Black press to the Black experience in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, so follow her if you I'm pretty sure many of you are following her. You got to be following her. But if you haven't, if you're not, certainly give her a follow and check her out because the stuff that she's doing is amazing. So, speaking of amazing, it's just amazingly sad that tomorrow, folks, if there's not an agreement between MAGA and the Democrats, and make no mistake about it, MAGA and the Republicans, all Republicans, for the most Republicans, and Donald Trump want to literally, not figuratively, but literally take away your health care. That's what's at play here. It's either keep the government open and lose your health care because we've capitulated again, or you let it shut down and continue to negotiate a deal that Americans. Right now, they're estimating that as many as it used to be 20 million, 25, 100 million people can lose their health care, whether it's because it's taken away or because of the affordability factor. This deal that the Republicans, that MAGA is trying to shove down the throats of the American people, will strip you of your health care at worst, and at best, you will pay at least 80 to 90% more in your premiums than what you're paying now. Deductibles, there will be no such thing as a low deductible. Some people are fortunate enough to have like a $250 or $500 deductible. Deductibles will average about $5,000. It's gonna be really outrageous, and they want to do this. And Donald Trump has said, no, I want to take away this health care. Literally, this is not figuratively. And he's saying that if you shut the government down as well, if the Democrats don't agree to allowing us to strip people of their health care, then we're going to fire every government employee left. This is what he said, because usually during a shutdown, they furlough. He's saying, no, we're going to fire them. This man does not care whether you black, white, woman, male. The only thing he cares about, if you're a multi-billionaire, then he has some modicum of care about you. But anybody else, nothing.
Well, we know for a fact that healthcare is one of former President Obama's signature and most landmark pieces of legislation within his presidency. And so we know why that is such a target. And we also know that the meeting is back on. The meeting was on between leaders of Congress, and I'm talking about particularly Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries.
Mm-hmm.
Then he canceled it. So it's back on today. And one of the things during the Congressional Black Caucus was, where's Hakeem Jeffries? Nobody was able to find him. It was like, where is Waldo? Where's he at? He's supposed to be here? He's not there. He's supposed to be there. He's not here.
Did you ever see him?
Yeah, so he showed up
because
he didn't show up to the Black Press.
Of course not.
He was honored at. He sent the video.
But
he didn't show up to the Phoenix Award, and he did speak, and that was probably his most important talking point, was talking about that he was not going to allow this Trump Klan administration to take away our health care. He made that promise to us at the Phoenix Awards. So we'll see today if, he holds the line, because we know that one of the other reasons why people were upset with him, because he voted for that bill that had the Charlie Kirk Memorial in it. And, of course, a lot of the white Democratic lawmakers, including him, was saying that it's a trap. We have to do it in order to get this or that. That was their reasoning why. And people were mad because he folded. So we'll see what happens today. We'll see what comes out of this meeting today between the congressional leaders and Donald Trump.
Well, Dr. Joni says the only leverage we have right now as Democrats, the only leverage Democrats have right now is to hold out and not give them one single vote and force the Republicans to negotiate. And that's what it appears that they're trying to do. But then she goes on to say how wishy-washy both Jeffries and Schumer have been. Greer says that we're going to Capitol Hill today. Perhaps we will run into him, meaning Hakeem Jeffries. But yeah, Charlie Kirk was a resolution, not a bill. It's correct. That is correct, Dr. Marilyn. But the fact is, hopefully, this is a check that Jeffries has written that his butt can cash this time, and that is what he promised, as you said in his speech. So we will see. I don't know how he can make that promise when everything we've seen suggests that he has caved to everything. He has went into hiding to allow stuff to go on that, I mean, granted, I should say, you don't have all the votes that you need for a lot of stuff. But and somebody pointed this out too. One of the influences. Why is it that when Mitch McConnell was in the minority, he was still able to hold the line for his people?
Right. And it was a resolution, but the Charlie Kirk resolution, but the reason why the Democrats and Hakeem Jeffries voted for it was because they said they had to get something out of the bill, right? And so they thought that, if we do this, then when the bill comes along, we'll get that. And so that was their excuse for saying that they signed off and voted for it.
Wow. Well, Niele, here's something else I found to be. This is the thing. The utilization of ICE, right? So a contractor had these immigrants build his facility, and after they were done, to avoid paying them, what did he do? He called ICE to arrest them. This is as low life as you can ever be. They spent all that time. They finished building the roof, and this contractor reportedly called ICE on the day workers that he hired. This is what America looks like now, Niele.
Right. I mean, we were just talking about, Charlie Kirk resolution. You vote for it because we're going to get something out of this bill. I mean, you can't trust white folks. You just can't trust them. You can't get along or go along with them, right? Because as soon as they get what they want for you, they got the vote. As soon as they get what they want from you, they don't care.
To be a lesson for those who continue to capitulate to the authoritarianism that goes on here.
I'm with Nancy Wall. Tear it down. I was, and I don't even know if she's talking about that, but I was having a conversation yesterday, and a lot of people still feel like diplomacy, decorum, is still needed, and it's like not anymore. The gloves are off. The gloves are off. You are not going to get anything from these people by going along to get along.
It's like the Laura Loomer situation with Jamel Hill and others. Now you see what's the name? Claudia Jordan? Others posting their photos next to Laura Loomer's photo. It's it's like Jamel said, I am not Michelle Obama. I am not the go low, go high thing. She says, I'm going into the mud. And obviously, it's not a criticism of Michelle Obama, so don't get that twisted. This is what Michelle said some years ago. That does not, and I'm pretty sure she's not applying that today.
Well, yeah, she addressed it on her podcast that what she was saying was in context to something else,
Right.
but she understands. She said she
please.
understands.
Please. I want to just, before you bring in our special guest this morning, I wanted to just a couple more comments. Miss Perry, Claudette Perry is watching. She says, I would call their bluff, talking about Congress, the Democrats. He says, are the MAGA leaders in Congress really going to take away the health care of their MAGA constituents? She says, I just don't believe so, because how will they get voted back into Congress? I think calling their bluff might be the only negotiation available to them. The only part I disagree with that is that I still don't believe you're going to have to prove to me when November rolls around next year that there will be an election. Exactly. I'm thinking that many of them are counting on there will not be an election.
And it still amazes me how so many Black people think that Oh no, that's not going to happen. Oh no, it's not going to happen.
I've been saying it
No,
since
are you
January.
looking at this redistricting? Are you looking at what these red states are doing at their state capitals on local levels? Do you remember that Donald Trump became president not once, but twice? And every time people were like, oh, that's not going to happen. Second time around, oh no. This man told Georgia to get me the votes. How many? 11,000, 13,000?
Yep, whatever he needed. Yep.
That. We literally had fake electors.
Yep. And now they're in better positions now, too.
Right.
That's
to
the
do
other
his
part.
bidding. Fake electors to do his bidding. You had January 6th, a Capitol takeover. And he released all of those people. You have a Supreme Court that is gutting voting rights, Roe versus Wade, education. And y'all don't believe that Donald Trump is not deliberately trying to overthrow this government, take it over, and get rid of elections? Y'all better wake up.
And you got to understand, as Greer points out too, that this is not just going after Black folks and Hispanic folks. And they don't care about the MAGA folks either. The MAGA folks who supported them, they're taking their health care away too. They don't care about them. It's about the billionaire class and the billionaire class only. This is why I believe that, and I'm seeing more and more white folks that you, not just regular white folks that you wouldn't expect, these suit and ties, these skirt and hat white folks getting angry with this president and with this regime. And they're now in the streets. I've never seen that before. They're protesting.
Right. But the reality is, they're doing it from a place of power. So the thing about it is what's happening at state capitals, what's happening in local Republican-run cities is how Donald Trump is wielding his power. He's not even dealing with us. He only needed the people to get him back into office. Now he don't give a damn about the people. The power he is yielding is from a place of white supremacy. And I'm talking about the white supremacist leaders that are at state capitals. Look at what happened in Texas. You had Gregory Abbott start the church. He called Gregory Abbott. And what did Gregory Abbott do? He went to the Republican legislators. This is not about the people with what Donald Trump is doing. It's about, look at Larry Ellison, look at what's happening with TikTok. You had Netanyahu over last week talking about how
all people,
he is like, this is the best thing that could happen. Pro-Israeli people, white people are taking over TikTok. So now they can control. They are in control. And so this is not about the people anymore.
It's also another one of the 1,500,000 reasons why the Black press is so important. So folks, follow Ben Crump's lead. But we have a guest this morning, don't we?
Oh, we're there already.
We passed there.
One of the stories that broke while we were here at the Congressional Black Caucus was Asala Shakur, a Black liberation activist, died on Thursday in the capital city of Havana due to health conditions and advanced age. Now, that's according to Cuba's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, a statement they released. Now, an outpour of love and honor has flooded social media timelines. And here to discuss the importance of her life and legacy is multimedia journalist, writer, commentator, and member of Black Press, Kandasizwe Shimaringa. Welcome to Let It Be Known, sis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
So
thank you for pronouncing my name correctly too.
Okay, I
don't count on me doing the same thing. I want you to know right now. I'm just gonna say my sister. How about that?
Okay, my brother.
No,
all right, my brother.
All right, there you go.
But we could just call you Tandi, right?
Yes, that's fine.
There we go. But I had to get the name right out of respect. And so when news broke, you were one of the first people that I saw to report this. Talk to us about how you found out.
So I am a journalist, but I wouldn't necessarily call it reporting. I tried to remove my journalist hat from this. I posted on my personal Facebook page. So I had been scrolling social media and saw where someone posted that they had heard a rumor that Asada had passed away, and they wanted to know if it was true. My heart literally skipped a beat. I have known Asada's daughter and husband for over 30 years. And so I immediately called to see if it was true. And I was so saddened when he said that it was true. I purposefully refrained from going into journalism mode. Well, what did she die of? Well, are y'all gonna go to the funeral? Well, when will be, are you gonna bring her back? I conveyed my condolences. The only question I asked was, had she been ill? And he said, yes, she had been ill. I did not ask the nature of the illness or how long. My heart was broken for them because, losing a parent, losing your mother, you're never, ever prepared for that. And I was heartbroken for me being, as Asada says, an African woman in America, or a new African woman, in terms of just, she's no longer physically here with us. She has left us an abundance of information about her views, about her life, speeches, recordings, interviews, films, books. But I still wanted her to be here physically walking around. I liked knowing that she was physically walking around free in Cuba, away from the clutches of the US government. So I was absolutely saddened by that. I was absolutely saddened that I had never taken myself down to Cuba and tried to find her and interview her as a journalist. But at the same time, it's bittersweet. I was saddened by that, but I was also rejoicing in the fact that for close to 50 years, she remained free of the United States criminal injustice system. You have to understand, it is because of the Black liberation movement and their international solidarity work, their practical, tangible acts of solidarity, that the people, her comrades from the Black Panther Party at that time, were able to ask Cuba, will you take our sister? And she made the case that not only am I a victim of injustice, I don't believe that, first of all, I was railroaded into prison. That's why I broke out. I don't believe I'm going to spend the rest of my life in prison. I believe they will kill me. And this is why. And she listed all of her comrades in the Black Panther Party who had been killed. So she made a case for asylum. It was accepted, and they kept her safe and secure for close to 50 years. They refused to give her up, to send her back. And I think that we should rejoice in that.
Yeah, is that you mentioned that you wanted to know, one of the first questions was, how did she die? Was that a reason why you needed to know almost immediately what was the cause of death? Because we know that this particular administration, in fact, they put her back on the most wanted list not long ago. Is that one of the reasons why?
No. It was as I said, I was trying not to delve too deeply. I was trying to be respectful, and I think that question may have even come out unexpected to me. Well, has she been ill? He said yes, and I just left it alone. Well, what was she ill with? Well, how long had she been ill? Did y'all know that I just leave it alone. I just out of respect for the family, because I didn't want it to seem as that I was using our relationship as friends to get information to report as a journalist.
Right. I think it's very interesting as we look at what happened to Charlie Kirk and how they want us to embrace him. But then we see that the FBI director is telling people not to mourn her. And then, of course, news broke today that several Chicago alder people plan to denounce the Chicago Teachers Union for a social media post honoring her. Talk to us about the two Americas we live in right now and why she is so important to the Black experience.
I think that a lot of us, and I'm talking about Black people, we know this instinctively, we know this intuitively, but we don't want to admit it. America is a white supremacist nation. It is a white supremacist nation. It was not founded for us. We were brought here to enrich other people. America has always been a white supremacist nation. And if we didn't believe it before, everything that Trump is doing right now is in line, perfect lockstep with white supremacist principles. And that is how he was able to be reelected twice, not once, but twice, because he represents the deepest desires of this country. He was able to get through that. Now, Assata Shakur and others say, well, you might be a white supremacist nation, but you owe African people, Black people, not only for our labor, and you did not pay us, for your mistreatment of us and for your mistreatment of the world. We are not just going to stay here dormant and happy and allow you to promote yourself as the human rights champion, human rights defender of planet Earth, when you are destroying the earth, destroying the sovereignty of other countries, as well as destroying our communities, Native American communities, Puerto Rico, etc. We're going to fight to create a better world, a better station in life. And Assata Shakur was part of that fight. She always talked about how much she loved and was concerned about Black people in the United States of America. Those were her people. When she talks about for my people or to my people, of course she's concerned about all humanity, but she's talking about Black people in the U.S. in particular. She was our warrior queen mother, our sister comrade, our mama. She fought for us. She sacrificed for us. And her autobiography, her being liberated from prison in 1979, her autobiography, the scores, the hundreds of young people who were introduced to her through hip hop and the Black August concerts emanating out of New York. All of these people loved Assata and wanted to protect her, were very angry and upset when the news first started leaking, saying, well, why would you say she's dead? Why would you say something like that? That's horrible of you. Why would you wish death on her? They're very protective of her because they understood what she meant to us.
And to go along with that protection, I see one of our viewers, RNG. He says that when he visited Cuba in 2016, he says the Cuban people, shout out to the Cuban people, because they only showed him pictures of her, but they would not tell him where she was located, and he respects them for that. Assata once said, it is our duty to fight for our freedom. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Can you talk a bit about that spirit that she showed every day, and how it should be, and what you think is her view, or even in your view, how it should be applied today?
Well, you know, that people call that the Assata chant, and it gained prominence during the uprising in Ferguson over the murder of Mike Brown through the Black Lives Matter movement. But that is actually part of a letter that she wrote to Black people. Once again, talking about Black folks here in the U.S. She talked about how she apologized for being on the New Jersey Turnpike in 1973, which led to her initial confrontation with police, where she was shot. Her comrade Zaid Malik Shakur was murdered, and Sundiata Acoli was captured. She talked about apologizing, that she should have known better than to take a chance going on the turnpike because it was so racist. And then she talked about all of the conditions that Black people have had to go through, and that yet she and her co-defendant were labeled as terrorists, as criminals. And she says, no, we're fighting the terrorists and the criminals. And we love you and we appreciate you. We need you to understand why we have done the things that we have done. And I am so sorry. Please forgive me for being on the turnpike, for not being more careful, because I should not have allowed myself to get captured. And that's when she ends with, we must love and protect one another. That we are all we've got. Black people, we are all we've got. And we have to understand, when people make sacrifices for us, we must understand the reason why they make those sacrifices, and we must support them.
Such a blessing that she died free.
And you know, people talk about, well, was she really free because she couldn't come back to the U.S.? She did miss us. She missed what she called African-American culture, but her children and grandchildren were able to visit her. So it's not like she was completely cut off. But because Assata was a political, in addition to being a revolutionary, she had an astute political mind. She always put it in the context of separation has unfortunately always been a part of African people's existence.
Mm.
And that her family was no different than others, whether you're talking about enslavement, whether you're talking about prison, whether you're talking about migrating from place to place. Separation has always been something that African people have had to deal with.
Now that's deep and rich right there. When you think about our legacy as Black people, that is so true. Separation has always been a part of our experience. If you were to write her obituary or put her legacy out there, what would it be?
Love of Black people. You know, going again back to Assata's autobiography, she was a college student during a time when the world was caught up in revolution. And not only did she say, I can't just sit by and do nothing, she saw what was going on. She saw what was happening and wanted to make a change and made a commitment to change. And she threw herself into that movement. During her incarceration, she and her co-defendant were housed together in a jail cell. She says that they made a decision to be human. They made a decision to be human, which led to the conception of her daughter. They made that decision. She talked about how it tore her up, her daughter being 3 years old, not understanding why mommy can't come home, beating against the bars. And it broke her heart. But she resolved to get out of those bars and do what she could to see that daughter grow up. So again, sacrifice and love and commitment. That is, and beauty. Sacrifice, love, commitment, and beauty. When Assata's autobiography came on the scene, we hadn't seen anything like that, and I don't think ever. The way it was written, the tone, the way she spoke to us, and it was infused with her poetry. This revolutionary woman that the state said was a terrorist, the mother hen who kept grown Black men in line shooting, bank robber, terrorist. She's an artist, a wordsmith, and she wove poetry throughout her autobiography. That's who this woman was. She was a beautiful soul, and she often talked about how we need to be weapons of mass construction, how we must create more beauty in the world, because the people who are currently running it are destroying it. You're on mute, brother. Brother who can't pronounce my name.
While
still on mute.
Dr. Joni Toole made a great point. She said free, but definitely with sacrifice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
For sure. I wanted you to talk to us about the importance. You are a member of Black Press. You were the editor of the Watts Times, right?
The LA Watts Times associate editor, assistant. I was not the editor, assistant editor.
Assistant editor. So talk to us about when we have stories like this. Why is the Black press so important, especially in this moment in time?
You know, when I was in high school, I participated in the NAACP's Act So competition, academic, cultural, technical, scientific Olympics. And I didn't find out until years later that Vernon Jarrett was one of the major pushes behind the creation of Act So. Vernon Jarrett, one of the members of the Black press in Chicago. And in the documentary, Soldiers Without Swords, I believe it is, he talks about, you know, Black people, if you just relied on the white or mainstream press, Black people weren't born, they didn't die, they didn't graduate from high school, they didn't get married, and none of that. We were only in the media as criminals. And so we will always need a Black media, a Black press that is not only going to reflect our reality, but also give us the nuances and the context that's going to be missing from mainstream, or yes, white folks media reports about us. We need that context. We need that nuance. For example, Assata Shakur, regardless of the hyperbole of the FBI under Kash Patel and others, Assata Shakur did not murder, did not kill anyone. She was convicted of being on the scene during the commission of that crime. And as you know, in many states, that carries the same penalty as the person who actually committed the crime.
Yeah.
So when they pull out this black FBI person to talk about how she's most wanted terrorist on the most wanted list and that she's a cold-blooded murderer, you're a liar. You're a liar. And so we need media to give us the background and the context to reflect our reality and also reinforce back to us who our role models are, who our heroes and sheroes are, who they should be.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you so much this morning.
I appreciate y'all. Absolutely.
Yeah, some real insightful stuff. I can't say enough about how pleased I am with our guest this morning, Niele.
Right. And before we let
You
you
can't
go,
pronounce my name?
I can't pronounce your name. Don't get me started.
I'm sorry, Niele. I cut you off.
You trying to
Before
get
we
me
let
to
you
offend
go,
you, and then you're gonna come after me, and I'm gonna be in trouble. So
yeah.
Never,
But
never, never.
I know.
before we let you go, you're dropping something this afternoon. Talk to us about it.
So I'm going to be interviewed on a program called Millennials Are Killing Capitalism. We're going to be discussing a transcript of a conversation of Assata Shakur that is in a book that I edited. It's called Some of Us Are Brave: Conversations with Sisters on Life, Art, and Struggle. It's a 2-volume work. And it's an interview with, well, not really an interview. Assata she talked with a group of Black women from an organization called the New African Peoples Organization. They traveled to Cuba back in 1993, and that meeting was recorded, and they were asking her questions regarding her thoughts, her philosophy, her history around sexism in the movement, and what are the things that Black women can do to combat these evils, especially Black women in political organizations. So we're going to be talking about that on the show Millennials Are Killing Capitalism, 2:00 p.m. Pacific time, because her autobiography, though we appreciate it, though we need it, we're glad we got it, it may have been written in a way such that all of her politics were not truly reflected. And so that is why we look at these various sources that we have, various interviews, various writings of Assata, to get the fullest picture possible. And she has left us a treasure trove of information. So that's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon.
And then real quickly, getting down to the root work. Talk to us about the podcast.
Root Work is a podcast that I do occasionally on Pacifica Radio in Los Angeles, KPFK, and on the Black Liberation Media platform, which is you can find here on YouTube also. So please check us out, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Thank you.
You definitely got down to the root today. We appreciate you.
There we have it. Peace
Thank
and
you
love,
so
and
much.
Thanks for getting up so early.
No problem.
All right. Peace and love. All right. We have a couple more headlines to get through. I think this one is important coming out of that conversation. Ghana President John Mahama announced at the 80th UN General Assembly that Ghana will table a motion for the transatlantic slave trade to be officially recognized as the greatest crime against humanity. Now, the historic push not only seeks justice, but also calls for reparations, the return of stolen artifacts, and a global reckoning with the legacy of slavery. I haven't seen that anywhere on the headlines.
Right, but why is he tabling it? I mean, put that thing out there. Get a vote on this thing.
Well, I think that's the start. That's the start of the process that he put it out there, that he's tabling it, but he did speak on it at the UN. And I think, something is better than nothing. I think with this conversation around reparations happening in California, especially, and around the country, when you think of all the artifacts that are spread out across this country and all of these museums and things that have stolen artifacts, I think that this is a conversation that needs to happen. And I think that it was brought up too because of the climate of the United States and what's happening. And it's a setup for different states here in the country to use as they push for reparations.
Niele always reminds me of Dr. Benjamin Chavis. I'm optimistic. She's always optimistic when on these things. Very
So,
good.
I mean, saying something is better than saying nothing, right?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. I just there's no question in a lot of our minds that it is the greatest crime ever committed.
Claudette Perry says Black nationalism always gets down to the root.
Yeah, she said the UN recognized that back in 2009 and signed a resolution on the record.
Mhm.
There we have it.
There we have it. Yeah, let's talk about, I mean, and so let's talk about it. Let's amplify it. Let's keep it out there. Let's let the Black folks know that it happened. I don't know. I don't know if it to your point, Stacy, why did he do it that way? But I'm glad that the conversation is
It's out
happening.
there. It's out
Yeah,
there.
that it's out there. That it's out
Mhm.
there. And so another headline, nearly 20 FBI agents have been fired after being photographed kneeling during a 2020 Justice for George Floyd protest.
Mm. Yeah, this is again the retribution continues. We see the prosecutions have began on the so-called political enemies. These are not, and folks, get it straight. These so-called political enemies, and I'm talking about what's his name that was just indicted, and he's looking at Fonnie Willis, and he's looking at our girl Letitia James in New York. These are not enemies. These are people who were doing their jobs. They were doing their jobs and doing the way they're supposed to do it. If Donald Trump did not commit or allegedly committed these crimes of election interference, the crimes that he was convicted of in New York, the 30 some odd counts, then they would not have been prosecuting him. It's as simple as that. They were doing his just like I argue about the vice president. People get on Kamala Harris. Oh, she prosecuted all these Black men, and I get some of that, but don't do the crime, as Beretta said, if you can't do the time. Simple as that.
For
Go
sure.
ahead.
And when you look at the punishment of that and you look at how they're uplifting Charlie Kirk, which a lot of Klansmen and alt-right people looked up to him. I mean, it just shows you how divided we are, and how backward we're going in this country. And so I mean, it just really blatantly shows you where we are in America. But I wanted to bring up Claudette Perry says that that is about slavery being a crime against humanity and always has been, that Black people deserve reparations. And so, maybe it's reinforcing that whole push for reparations for people in the United States. Patricia Jackson says, what a nice tribute to a warrior. And Dr. Joni says, yes, but also I would like to understand the tabling, what that means, simply because I do not understand the implications. I'm with you, Dr. Joni. So maybe we should try to get somebody on. I kind of wanted to keep Tanda Seaway on to talk about that because she's very familiar with that conversation. So we'll bring it back up to have it, because if we're not talking about reparations, nobody is. And that is the honest to God truth at this point in the game. Another headline, Stacy, I thought you were going to talk about Diddy, but we didn't get to that.
No, it's coming up. Diddy's going to be sentenced this week.
Yeah, he gets sentenced on Friday. And of course, we see the judge may throw those counts out too, but I guess we'll talk about that tomorrow. But speaking of hip hop, Jay-Z may have been denied the Times Square casino, but Nas has not. Check this out, y'all. A $5.5 billion resort world NYC casino project backed by Nas just got a unanimous approval from the Community Advisory Board. Now, Queens Bureau President Donovan Richards Jr. couldn't resist by stating, Queens gets the money. Sorry, Jay-Z. We win again. Now, let me finish. So if the gaming location board gives the green light, the casino is set to open in 2026 with the state-of-the-art casino, 30 restaurants, and a 7,000 seat entertainment venue.
So the backstory is that, and which I didn't know until recently, there are 5 licenses that they're giving out. Queens is getting a license. I think Queens is getting 2. Yonkers, Brooklyn, and there is still one for Manhattan. The location was the biggest problem for Jay-Z's in New York. It was Times Square. And I think that, and people were saying, well, Broadway is going to fade out eventually. Broadway's been around for over 100 years. What makes you think it's going to fade out? Perhaps a better location, Jay-Z, if you ever listen to us, would be the Javits Center area. Perhaps. I'm just saying.
Hey, that's that's interesting. I wonder how Rock Nation feels about that. Because if Nas gets that casino, he might be rivaling Jay-Z for billionaire status.
Hey, well, there you have it.
All right. Those are the headlines for today.
All right, real quick, a Black fact. Our Black facts: on this date in 1910, the Committee on Urban Conditions Among Negroes was formed, which later merged to become the National Urban League, an organization dedicated to helping African Americans in urban areas.
Right, and on this day, WGPR television became the first network to air on September 29th. Now, it made history as the first African-American owned and operated television station in the United States, and it is based in Detroit, Michigan.
All right. Well, folks, tomorrow we'll be back.
And that happened in 1975.
75. All right. We'll be back with our newspaper of the day tomorrow. But we got to run. We've run over time. Thank you so much for joining Let It Be Known.
Say it. Look, it's bigger than what? Say it. Say it. It's bigger than. Say it. What is bigger than? Say it. What is bigger than? What is bigger than? Look. One thing about music, when it hit, you feel no pain. Like no pain. No bad neck. That's pain, and we ready for that. 2 soldiers hit the back. And where my army at? Rather attack it now.